Abdul and Deepshika, first of all, congratulations on making this film, and thank you for being here to present it in person. I mean, I find it incredible. This is the third time I'm watching the film, and it's still there are things that I'm picking up right only now. Maybe I'll start with you, Abdul. One of the words that strikes you while watching this film, especially in the beginning, is the word amateur. But you're anything but amateur because you have a background in formal filmmaking and so on. So let's start with that. What was your journey into filmmaking? When did you start shooting? And I know you made small films even when you were a school kid. So yeah, tell us your journey into filmmaking and then into
Filmmaking in general?
in general.
Okay. In general, since I was around 9 or 10, when Michael Jackson had died, I wanted to recreate that thing that he does where he stands like this, that dance move, which I didn't know was fake. So me and my friend used to just try to shoot stuff with this PSP camera that we had, which was a gaming console, and from there it started my fascination with like just creating effects, illusions actually. And from then on, slowly I discovered Adobe After Effects, which is a VFX software, and that kind of opened up my world that we can create, fantasy in real life, and I was just purely into that, just VFX and superheroes and action and funny stuff and all of that, and somehow that led me into film school for VFX again. And in film school, in our first year, I didn't know what direction was and all of that, but in our first year, like I was the go-to VFX guy for everybody, and that's when I realized I hated VFX. Doing it for everybody. What I liked was just making things that I wanted to, and at the age that I was, my ideas were very fantastical. And in college, as I was growing up, my ideas changed, and I wanted to do different things. And so as I grew up, my films also started to take a turn, and then I deviated from the action stuff and started going kind of inward. And that's when I discovered cinema, and I hadn't watched films until like much later in my filmmaking thing. So yeah, that's how I started.
Did you have an undergraduation in some other subject?
No,
How
no,
does that work?
this was filmmaking was my after +2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you finished your graduation from this thing.
In this thing, yeah.
Right.
And then in the second year I ended up specializing in direction, which I got selected in. So, yeah.
Right. So this film, as we understand, is part of a trilogy of 3 films. I mean, trilogy. Could you talk to us about the origin of this particular film in general, but also the trilogy?
Okay, so this was never meant to be 2 films like the first 2. It was just one film called Window Flowers, which had 2 chapters. And the idea was that these are 2 chapters that had nothing to do with each other in terms of characters and this and that. Like the first chapter is about 2 boys, one boy just trying to come to terms with rejection. Second one is this, and they were supposed to be like 1 hour each or something like that, collectively being one feature film. And the idea was that despite being such different stories and different age group and different people, the emotion was still the same of what they were feeling at that respective age, which is the boys, some love failure thing, and this very intense 25 years of love. I think the feeling is still the same based on how much a human body can feel at that moment. So that was the emotional idea of it. And in film making, using the medium itself, the goal was to kind of create this parallel experience where the images look the same. So both the apartments look identical. Some of you may have seen the first film, that was shot in like A wing of the same apartment. This was shot in C wing of the same building. And so that it looks all the same. You see a guy going in the kitchen, you see them cooking, you see them sitting on the window. You can put them side by side. They would be the same shot, but the context of it being so different. So the whole concept of things being so different but same, that was the idea of and how it unifies people who have nothing to do with each other. So that was the inception of the whole idea. But then as and both the protagonists, like this girl and the boy from the other, they were supposed to have some kind of like a dream connection thing, which on paper was nice. And that as I wrote the script, I realized that all of that dream stuff was all just exciting on paper, but the film is actually about what each chapter itself is about, which is what they are going through. And and the script kind of automatically edited out all of the others. The gimmicky stuff just kind of got deleted automatically. The more fleshed out these characters became, and I shot the first chapter. I always called it chapter one, chapter two in 2021 after first wave of COVID between second wave, and I was supposed to shoot the second one right after. But then second wave of COVID came, and a lot of things happened that kept delaying this, which was a blessing because that's when the script actually kind of became much more full-fledged. And even till then, I'd already shot the first chapter, and it was already 1.5 hours, 1 hour 45 minutes, and still in my head it was one chapter. It's not a finished film. And then I ended up shooting this film a year later, and even then it was just one film of 2 chapters, even though it was like 5 hours or 4 hours long or something, because in my head it was always one film. And eventually, when I was trying to find a sound designer and I had to make an export to send them the whole film, it was like 1 4-hour export. And then suddenly I realized it was 2 movies, like, which was something that for the rest of the world was so obvious, but I had to kind of realize that these are just ideas in my head, but they are 2 stories. And so then the trilogy aspect came, that these are 2 films, and it's still there's one other aspect of it which is missing, like in between this young boy age group and this 25 years of marriage age group. And so then the third film script was born, which was about a couple, basically, young couple in love and stuff. So that's the third film, which is yet to be released.
And how is it that we have a Telugu couple here, or mother and daughter moving to Bombay? What's that? What is the origin of that?
So that was supposed to be in Hindi only, because I was in Bombay at the time, and I was going to do it with the actors that I had worked with in my college films and all of that, because that was just a comfort zone. So right after, and I thought I should mix. The idea of doing it in Tamil in Bombay was just out of, like, I didn't think that was possible, because we have actors and acting students and this and that in our college, and you're conditioned to kind of use only what is labeled as for film. So non-actors, all of this stuff was like never something I thought I would do. Like, I knew what cinema people are doing and all of that. But then the more I tried to, but I wanted my first film to be in Tamil, like, because everything I did in college was Hindi, and I didn't speak Hindi. Like, I learned Hindi or whatever, I learned Hindi in college. So then while trying to find a Tamil person in Bombay, it was so like inauthentic, like the Tamil Bombay people, the actors and stuff. So I thought it needs to be the way it is with my friends in school, and then I thought, if there's no stakes for this film, it's the first film, and why not I just make it with my school friends? I can just bring them over, and it'll be like hanging out, and there'll be so much of intimacy that we can go deeper into the realism and stuff like that. And that experiment turned out to be very fruitful, and then I discovered this non-actors, the strength that you can find there. Meanwhile, I'd already had my Hindi actors ready, which are all actors, but thankfully, that friend had some things going on, and she kind of quit the project. And then the couple, their dates didn't work, and then I just kind of hoped it wouldn't work, because I liked what I did in the first film, and I wanted to do it with non-actors. And so this auntie and uncle, the couple, they were supposed to be the opening scene auntie, the neighbor. With the actors, because I thought mixing non-actors and actors would bring some flavor, but then I realized the flavor is coming only from the non-actors, and the actors are not really adding. So then that's why I was hoping it gets cancelled, because I was too intimidated to tell them, we can't do it and stuff. I've already committed, and they're doing me a favor and all that, but it didn't work out. And so then I knew that this uncle and auntie are 100% who I want, because what I saw in them, for the neighbor role that they played, I felt was something I've never seen in Indian or whatever. To me, it was so irreplaceable for me, and I was so hell-bent that it has to be them. And auntie is Tamil as well as Telugu, but uncle is only Telugu. So then the daughter had to be Telugu, because it had to be a Telugu family. And so this Deepshika is my college friend, like one of my best friends, his cousin sister, who I didn't know personally, but I knew of her because he used to keep showing me all these family videos and stuff. And somehow I felt like I just had this instinct that she would just be perfect for it. Then I went to Hyderabad to their house and very formally, directly told her, I wanted to act in the film, and she was like, "Who are you?" So it started like that, actually, our friendship. And when you had some just fit. After that.
Deepshika, this is your first screen role, and I mean, yeah, of course, it's a surprise that when somebody proposes a screen role for an entire film. So, what was your thought when he gave you this idea?
Like,
how did you go into this?
yeah,
role?
like first when he approached me, I was not serious. Like, I thought it's a fun video or something like that, and also I don't know anything about this industry much, and acting, I have not done it before, so I was not serious basically, but Abu was serious. uh, then slowly he started explaining like what he wants to do, and he tried to explain the first part and the second part what he wants to do, and he also introduced Lata auntie, uncle, so that I'll be comfortable and that rapport will be built, and then slowly I can also create we can practice the scripts and then we can do the film. So my initial feeling was like it's a joke, but it turned out to be like I enjoyed the process really. Like after seeing the movie, each and everyone were telling like the emotions, the awkwardness, the ego, like all the emotions are mixed.
Yeah.
So it's like in that space, like me personally, when I'm doing the role itself, I was so uncomfortable. Like literally feeling like that emotion to really feel that emotion and do it. It's so frustrating. Like as a daughter, being there and in that situation, it's really hard.
Yeah.
So I have gone through that emotions in this film, and yeah, I enjoyed the process.
I mean, I find this character incredibly nuanced because on one hand, you have the bridge between these two people, father and mother. They're not going to speak to each other.
Yeah.
But also, the character is a little passive aggressive. She wants to confront the father. She's wearing that T-shirt and all that, the message, and she's testing him right when she leaves.
Yeah.
But also, in a way, I mean, she has that affection and respect. I mean, it's kind of fossilized because it's become solid, but then it's like that moonlight in the room. It's there in some corner of the room. That affection. I mean, even if it vanishes, probably doesn't matter. So I find it really nuanced that role. That there's a bit of softness towards the father, but also like kind of this anger that's suppressed. So yeah, can you either of you could you talk to us about these shades of Deepu the character?
Personally, me, what I felt was like when Abu explained this character itself, that as a child, we can't express everything out. Whatever we express, we lash out. But inside, we feel something different. So in this mixed feelings, we sometimes try to be nicer, but sometimes want to believe, sometimes expect. So because of all these mixed emotions, anger builds, like frustration builds, and while conveying out, it comes out as an anger. So as you see in this picture itself, that I don't want this to be started at all. Like I don't want to meet him. I don't want to even talk to him. But when he shows up, I need to start acting, right? I need to be normal.
Yeah.
That awkwardness is there.
Right.
But I also need to be like nothing happened.
Right.
Nothing is wrong from my side.
Right.
So this is a mixed feeling where after listening to him, like at least he's trying and he's showing his love in some or other way.
Right.
So me, myself as a daughter, Deepu, was feeling his love in a corner, like somewhere inside. And she's not exactly showing it out directly, but she's expecting that somewhere this will be resolved.
Yeah.
And like with the mother also, like she's trying to tell that maybe he's trying,
Right.
like he's really hurt,
Right.
right? So these kind of emotions I'm trying to explain my mom.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something really hurtful that has happened in the past between the couple, and we don't have access to that information. We know he's done something really bad. I mean, it's periodic, but 10 months ago something has happened, and it's broken for good. But we don't have that information completely. Just by looking at this guy, we also feel for him in some way because he's trying, but it's not happening because it's beyond the point of no return. So, what was the conception of this couple? Why did you say, okay, this is the information I'm going to get, this is what I'm going to conceal?
So the couple itself, actually the family itself this whole film actually, the script, it's to me, it's like my attempt at a summation of all kinds of observations that I've had observations of all kinds of people that I've met and been involved with in very close and in my own life, and kind of like one common trait, even though it's a very specific story, it's so generically universal, and just trying to keep it very universal was the goal, where it just feels like anybody's story and not like one particular person's story, despite it being a specific thing. And I think a way to achieve that is to not make it too specific and leave space for the person to fill in the blanks, because everybody largely has a figure like this. Even if you don't have parents, you have somebody you can associate it with, a daughter, husband, wife, something like that. And so that was the conception of all three of them, and that worked like very, very well, because when I took the script to her, who I didn't know personally to that level the way I knew my friend, she read it and the first thing she said was, this is my life. She was like, literally, this is my life. And which is the same thing that happened in Window Flowers also, which is a more generic emotion of like, once I love the two boys who read it, like, this is my life. Both the friends were fighting, no, this is my life. Like, this is what happened. Even though it's a very specific story, and I think that just comes from withholding and controlling what you, not like, getting lost in subtlety, but not giving too much of bias in the backstory of things. So now the moment if I reveal something that happened and I don't actually go into that moment in the film, I just have one opinion of it, that he did something. Like if the mother and daughter talking about it and they're saying, when my father did this, then you're only going to have the perspective of them being a victim of something and not really give him a chance or anything. Although the film does in the beginning half lean towards him being a villain figure, because we don't see him and it's just them talking about what a nuisance he has been and them having left Hyderabad for all of that. So that much I still kept a little bit of bias, which your bias may get affected once you actually see him and see him try. Or you kind of believe, like that's another like discussion that ends up opening up after the film, where people are very certain that one of them is the bad guy, but there's such opposing opinions, So that's something that I intend to keep in my film, like a kind of like one Rorschach test kind of a thing, where each person just sees what they think is familiar to them.
Right. Part of this Rorschach test is that your use of off-screen space. I mean, I'm now getting into the formal qualities of the film, because even though you're just shooting handheld, there is a certain design to the way you're concealing information off-screen. For instance, when Deepu is calling her father in the auto first, no, in the car, when they're going to the mall, they're focusing on the mother's face, and of course this major shot, 50-minute shot, used to be 50-minute shot, where Deepu and her father are sitting, mother is in the kitchen, and mother and Deepu are in the kitchen, they don't want to come out, and then these two people extremely awkward when Deepu is inside the room. So any two of the three will always see in the frame, but rarely all the three. So there's a bit of, this orchestration happening about what goes off screen, what comes out on screen, and that shapes our perception of what these characters are. Can you talk to us about the design of what goes into the frame and what keeps out?
The best way to kind of explain that would be if you take the car argument scene in the cab when they're going to the mall. The first half of it is just the mother, second half of it is just her. And I think I kept it such that, again, to take away the bias, just give the mic to one person to express fully in one part, and then give the mic to the other person to express fully their part, rather than switching between. Because the moment you switch between, then you're getting kind of both things at the same time, and you're getting. I feel like it becomes more of an information passing rather than just getting to see what one person is feeling. Because after you see the first person's feeling and you cut to the second character, you still know what the other person's thing was, because you've been there with them in their journey, like the mother's journey of getting the phone call and her whole thing changing, and you kind of understand where she's coming from, and then you kind of understand what she's coming from. And I feel like if you kind of just keep giving everything, then it's just an argument and not really. I feel like you're not giving the space to try to understand only one person's perspective, and again remove off the villain in the situation.
Yeah.
I try to do that at every moment where I don't have a bad guy, even when one person is clearly being, oppressive to the other person.
Right. But there's also there's the question of real time. I mean, your film has what, 11 shots, 12 shots in all, 9 shots, and maybe artificially divided into a couple.
Yeah.
But that I find incredible because all of them are in some way pressure cooker situations, to carry the food metaphor. And they're either in a car, in an auto, or in an apartment, and the world is always there, either in the form of reflection or whatever we see the window. But then it's a pressure cooker atmosphere, and the pressure mounts because of the drama as well, but also because of the duration. Because you sense that, okay, by the time they reach here, by the time the chutney is made or whatever it is, things are going to escalate. And you also feel that at some point the fiction is going to break. It's too much. It's like this pressure of real time just weighs in on the drama that is there in the film. So could you talk to us about the choice of long shots? Such long shots,
so
close to...
it's something that I never actually set out to do, that I'm going to do long takes and all of that. It just started off with the first film, first chapter, whatever, to answer this question of, actually start off with the phone camera thing, which you know about, but which was something in college. I felt like when in college it's a film school basically. It's so much of formal filmmaking thing is being like taught to us, and that if it's shot on this thing, then it's considered diploma film. If it's shot on this, then it's an exercise film. And I always felt like the exercise stuff has so much more soul than any of the diploma. Like literally, I would say 100 out of 100 diploma films of a college versus the exercise stuff that the people do, is because there you're actually so liberated, and the value of your liberation is more than the technical thing that's showing up because of the red camera, this camera. So that I never found value in the bigger camera thing. So that being said, I also discovered at that time is when my friend Shashank, whose cousin sister she is, he had an iPhone some 9 or 10, which was new, and it had so much of storage, so which was new, relatively. So he would just keep recording stuff. We would just keep recording stuff and just keep it going because he has so much of storage. So I would just take his phone and just keep recording, and at some point, when clearing up his room or something like that, we would just be watching the stuff on his TV. And because we all knew everybody in those videos, because they are our friends and classmates and all of that, we knew all the backstories of each of these persons, the politics of who hates who, likes who, and all of that. And it was some party video. So for me, it was like the most cinematic experience I've seen, because I could read everybody's mind because I knew them off screen. But that for me just felt like information that just needed to be established to the audience. Once that's established, you are now able to connect to this in a whole different way. I felt like I've never seen, and at that time I was being exposed to a lot of cinema stuff, and I felt like this is just so valuable. And since then I had belief in the phone camera being superior to just camera, like whatever. Just not the quality of it, the fact that it's a phone and it's in our pockets and everyone is so used to it that you can just kind of keep it and nobody's going to feel conscious, as opposed to even this camera, which I'm also feeling conscious about. But so that kind of, in college itself, I was telling everybody I want to make a feature film on my phone, which was very just like I'm going to make a feature film like that. But that didn't happen. But I knew that I was going to do it on phone because I knew that if I did that, I can actually do it and not get lost in this looking for a budget, and when I get a budget, I will make a thing, which I felt like everybody was in that phase. So that empowering part of the technology, as well as this emotional part of the phone camera thing, put together based on the videos we generally record with our phone, which tend to be long takes, which when we're just recording something. So that's where the real time thing came from, to just kind of emulate reality and use my script writing methods to contain it in 10 minutes, 15 minutes or something. So it was just about that. It was never about trying to set a make it longer and better and stuff like that. Then in the rehearsals itself, it basically needed to be the same kind of videos that your parents would film during some function, That's the kind of filmmaking. So I didn't shoot in S-Log, I didn't do anything technical. I needed to be such a familiar image to the audience so that it just feels real. So when I got to the rehearsals is when I realized that you can't really time these things, because the more I try to time it, that it needs to be 90 minutes, or this shot should be 10 minutes, this shot should be 10 minutes, the more it was just unnecessarily breaking everything apart. People are trying to make sure the cues were hit. And so when we were doing the rehearsals, that idli cooking scene particularly, we finished all the dialogues and idli was not even cooked. So then I have that on camera, while we were rehearsing, where I got the idea for this thing, where I was like, okay, just forget everything. The priority is that the idli needs to cook, not the dialogues, So Auntie's priority was only when she has to just cook. He just has to, be with the daughter and whatever. So then it became more like metaphysical cues rather than, when this dialogue is said, then you go here and stuff. And by that time I'd made the first chapter where I had a certain, the question of can a film be made like this was answered. That film is more experimental compared to this, or rather narrative minimal compared to this, but that answered the one question that I set out that chapter, which can a film be made with this kind of phone long takes and stuff, whatever. So I had the experience to channel that craft and put it into the narrative, and then that's how this came to be.
I mean, what I find so thrilling about this particular film is this tension between this form. I mean, the word raw is used for anything that is less than over the top, but your film is there is raw real time, raw light, raw sound, everything is raw. But on the other hand, your dramaturgy is very classical. You're telling a story, it has a classical flow. The actors are inviting you into a world that you have to be immersed in. They're not breaking the fourth wall and so on. And you're also making sure that reflection is not caught and so on. So all that, there is this tension between this classical, it's film theatre in some way, right? It's like you're orchestrating a theatre in the city, but they're just following them. So there is this classical tendency on one hand and this very, very extremely unpolished, raw tendency on the other. So I wanted to ask you about your ideas of realism and rawness. At some point, because you were already formally trained by them, did you feel that, okay, I have to have some stylization? Because I find your music cues very beautiful. Because everything is so unpolished, music cues really that just elevates to some other level. So, what was your idea of stylization, realism when you were making this film?
So the idea was to not impose anything on the film.
Yeah.
And like I said with the idli thing, let the things in it, the substance, the emotion, the people, it just needs to be true to what is being explored, which is something that I learned in the hard way from my diploma film, where I felt like I touched upon some topics which were just for it to be, deep topics and stuff. And it was my principle from then on was, if I touch something, the priority was that it needs to be true to what it is. So that kind of applied to this phone thing also, realism thing also. And I did not want to impose any kind of a structure or some kind of a template. I just wanted to discover something that either it works and it becomes something, or it's a amateur thing that doesn't work, And so I was completely happy to make those gambles because I didn't have any stakes or any kind of pressure except my own expectations, which were more about my own excitement, because I felt like it is there because I've experienced it. I just need to contextualize it for the audience. So I knew it would work, because even people who watch world cinema and whatever, the old films, if anybody has seen Bicycle Thief, nobody has seen it in 4K. The print is torn. Any of these films, so it's just about what's in it that matters. So that's why I never had a doubt about trying to make sure. Although now I feel like if I were doing it next, I wouldn't replicate this. I will put more, power into that. But in letting go and leaving it in the hands of nature is when the form itself discovers itself and kind of teaches you, and you get to take credit for it, But actually, it is its own thing, So I tend to treat the films like that.
Yeah. Last question before I pass it on to the audience. This idea of letting go. the impression that I got was that a lot of it was improvised, especially the dialogues, because I find your dialogues very, I mean, it's particularly amazing because they are almost like insistently banal, but not in a way that is performative. It's like it's the kind of banality that you kind of hear every day, but then you don't think of it as cinematic dialogue, right? So yeah, can you talk to us about improvisation or whether it was all scripted, and especially with respect to dialogue?
So dialogue is like every dialogue I write. So my first draft of what I write, the final draft of what I write. Once I'm done with that, I then treat that as a 50% draft basically. So I write in as much detail as I can, to the most mundane amount of detail. Like if somebody just repeats something twice, I'll write that also. If somebody doesn't hear it and ignores, I'll write that also, and just have the same dialogue written 2 times, so that it's like somebody, because that's what happens in reality, as per my observation of reality. So I write it to as much detail as I can, and then when I take it to the actors, I will make them rewrite the dialogue. I write it in English intentionally, even in Tamil. I didn't write it in Tamil for the first one, so that the actors can then translate it. But in translating it themselves with their dialect, they end up actually rewriting it as their own, and that is the actual key to how they memorize the dialogue. Because then it's their own dialogue; it's not even mine anymore. So I won't remember it, but they will, because they only came up with it.
Right.
So while we're having this kind of discussion, literally line by line, people relate to it also, like the actors, and some anecdotes come from life, from their own life, or from the other person's life, or whoever's sitting around. And those anecdotes end up also then, if it finds a way into the script. Like for example, when the auntie's talking about that Koti Komattu, the sport that she used to play, that's something I could have never written. But I had a story about how they used to play, go to the sunset, go to the mountain, and then we saw the sunset, and she was so magnificent, And then she was talking about we used to play this, and then I asked her, can I include that? So like that's where the nuance, rehearsed improvisation during the writing itself, I would incorporate. Then that would be my final script, where we would again rewrite it, and then it will be completely in Telugu. And that final script, again while shooting, becomes a 50% script, because they are not just mugging it up, and which they have by now. It needs to be organic. Like if she is trying to now convince him to stay, it's not just say stay 3 times. There my cues are different. There is where the improvisational film aspect comes, where my cue to them is not just repeated. My cue to her is separately. I'll say you have to keep saying it until you have really tried your best to make a mistake. My cue to him is never accept what she's saying and keep deflecting it as much as you can with these dialogues. So when she's saying, give the diamond for an occasion, because she wants to give the hint that it's anniversary, but she can't betray the mother. She has to keep saying that, and his thing is he has to keep being oblivious to it, and he's just like, good, which is something I could have never written. Good as a dialogue. So that's where the improvisation part comes into the script. And then only after shooting the script is actually complete, which is what is recorded. That being said, Uncle had the most amount of improv, the things that he was doing in the fillers with the daughter, like he kind of did a more freestyle compared to them. Theirs was very, very exactly what was rehearsed was what was done.
Deepshika, maybe you could talk about that particular scene, I think the third shot of the film, I suppose, where you're making coffee and then the sugar is too much. And I find that rhythm amazing, because Auntie is not losing, of course, she's not losing track of the thread, but there's also a rhythm to it. There's a build up, and then you have the jokes and the puns and everything. How did you kind of work out that scene?
I observed that because of these long shots, our chemistry was building naturally. So whenever we read the script and when we are on action, then suddenly the situations turn out to be real. Like for example, you can see that you can see my emotions, that I was angry. I was towards the father, this scene, but also you can see that I'm slowly getting tired of it. So that emotion was real, because in that long take, the emotion became real. So we are not anymore acting, but we really felt that I need to stop that, and he needs to leave. In that situation, the emotions were really coming up. Like, I'm trying really my best. So the emotions were real. And you can also see me that I don't want to give up, but I'm tired. I'm really tired of it. Like, super tired.
Right.
Yeah. So, same with the mom scene also. Like, when that rapport is like, the chemistry was already built because of these long takes that, we naturally got that connection. And when the sugar scene itself, like a little improvisation was there where I remember that actually the sugar, like when she told me that it's not there, then I was like, you got memory loss. So that was an instant one. So like small improvements were there, but because of our rapport and the chemistry, it became natural.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, the other key to that would be the who you cast also.
Yeah.
Like, I know that she knows what it is to be a daughter more than me or a random actor, because she is a daughter, and I know Latanti has 2 daughters and she knows exactly how to talk to her.
Yeah.
So that's where in the casting itself there's some kind of writing, because you're casting somebody who is more prepared to it already without even having the script.
Yeah.
So
And there is a shared tendency towards sarcasm, both characters.
Yeah.
And Deepu sarcastic, mother is even
and
more
that was the
sarcastic.
first thing that she tapped into, because she was trying to talk to Latanti, not to her mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was like, how do you talk to your mom? To your mom, there's no respect.
Yeah.
She's just like, whatever. And then the moment she tapped into that, I think with that there were no more cues left.
Actually,
Because,
yeah.
you know,
Like when we are practicing the script itself, like when like Lathanti was delivering the dialogues, like it hit me. So I was really feeling her dialogues. So I can show my emotion, how she was reacting. Exactly that emotions were coming up within me. So yeah. So that rapport built with the practice of the context and the script as well. Yeah.
I mean, I now invite the audience to pose their questions, comments, and more questions about the music and so on. But then I'll come.
So, I mean, what you were saying about withholding the information from the audience, like how much how much information do the actors have? Do they have a backstory? Did they know what went wrong? Are they working with like a history of their relationship? And I mean, for example, the scene where there is a final confrontation between the two and he eventually cries, right? I didn't really believe him. I didn't believe his tears. But as an actor, what is he playing there?
So that is a part of the removing of bias thing, where for some people it is that are crocodile tears, which is 100% true, and for some people it is never seen what a man is like when he actually cries, and it is something very cringy to witness, and that is also 100% true. So I keep both the truths together, and they don't really work with any backstory, because they also understood it, that it's just about, because they can easily tap into 1,000 fights and of the same thing that I want the audience to piece together is what my actors also are piecing together. And even I never even wrote a backstory, because I know it's not needed, because a couple argument is so universal that the who's right or wrong is a separate thing, because then that becomes a film about patriarchy and stuff, which I didn't want to do very specifically, which would maybe be the most unrealistic thing about the film that I have seen. I knew also that if I took a very realistic approach, like realism, not the illusion of realism, but reality realism, the story most likely would be about him having been some kind of a dominating, controlling this, which you probably may think it is also, but the fact that it's not said at least leaves space for you to connect with him as a human and not as the patriarch. So, yeah.
Comment and a question. The second time I've seen the film, and I've also seen your other film twice. I had remembered the film as a much more surrealist film than what it turned out to be today. And also, I think that a lot of the conversation about acting and about emotions and so on, in a way, I think that the problem that you face is that the film is basically extremely sentimental film, and you are trying to work with something that deals with, because it could have been a tearjerker in a melodrama. So how do you make it something else? Was a question, and maybe the sound wasn't so good, so maybe the picture dominated. Maybe that's why, because essentially the main thing about your cinema is the way that a shot takes off. Literally takes off. I mean, I remember, for example, the entire last sequence of the airport. I've never seen Bombay Airport like the way you see it shot. It was like something out of, I don't know, Godard's, I don't know. I mean, there's a whole cinematic history about the sheer surrealist nature of it. And one thing I remember from my early film was the way that plastic.
Yeah.
And there was a huge amount of debate about that. Here also, the way that the camera actually zooms into that, when that whole thing with the mother and daughter after he has left, and you get that long sequence of just the scene outside the window. It reminds you, of course, of the final sequence of that earlier film.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the melodrama as much as the way that the film sort of spins off into something, which is what one somehow remembers. But today I saw it actually much more in emotional terms. Yeah, so you can just take it to the comment really.
For the melodrama thing, I never intended to make a family drama genre, whatever. I didn't even know what genre it is until after I made it. People were telling me it's a family drama. Nor did I intend to make a drama film also. Like I said about the initial vision of it being 2 chapters, my protagonist was the boy in the first film and this girl alone, not the parents. It was never ever about the parents at all in my mind. It was just about her going through it. And she had another entire arc in the script about going through this boyfriend that she left in Hyderabad and not having the space to deal with that because of the parents suffocating her with their problems. So that was the script. Not getting to explore it in the film was the suffocation that I was trying to show, which eventually I completely removed because the story became about this. But so I never really, like, if you now look at the film and say the key scenes, what is the key moment, it would be the confrontation of the father coming to the mother. That was like literally not at all in my final draft, which I was ready to shoot after COVID, after my first chapter, because that was just not the film to me. It was just about her, and I had a very art house approach where when the father comes upstairs, when they take a U-turn and come back, she's so angry at the mother that she leaves the car and she says, I'm going on a walk, and mother goes up. And now we stay with her, and I had this pink sky thing that I wanted to capture, and as part of like some element theme of pink and all of that, and she's just walking and having a very art house moment of just walking, and then the neighbor people come, the neighbor auntie son comes and gives them bed sheets and stuff because guests has come and the mother or something like that, and then she goes upstairs. By the time she goes upstairs, the confrontation is already over. It's just cold now. The mother in the kitchen, he's in the sofa just watching, on his phone, not talking. And that was the script for the longest part. During this COVID time, when I was just sitting in the script again, and suddenly I realized that I am just kind of running away from the main scene of what I have set up for myself in the name of it being an experiential art house and that. I never called it art house, but whatever. In my artistic exploration of mind and all of that stuff. And I realized that it's just because I will never know how to begin a scene like that, where 3 people are meeting for the first time and how awkward that would be. And that I realized is when I was making a lot of ideas in the name of it being artistic, but actually just kind of running away from the writing task of it. And so it was never melodramatic. It was not even dramatic. It was more like the first film, which was very minimal. And then I was like, if I have to make this film, I need to make it right. And I just, literally the biggest challenge was, what will they say when they meet and outside the elevator? That was like literally the only thing I broke my head over, which is in the film, if you see, it's like you've lost weight and you have lost glasses and all of that stuff. And then, so the drama came as per necessity, rather than the story already being there and me controlling what was there. There was nothing, and then only what I felt was needed just had to be there, whether I liked it or not. So then the confrontation had to be there, the fight had to be there. Yeah, so that is how the melodrama dictated itself.
Yes.
No, I'm just very struck by the mismatch between the language and the kind of cinema that I was telling her about how, from the blurb, just from the description of the outline of the film, See, this is not really a Telugu film. I'm not saying this is anything negative. What you seem to have done is to actually make literally an apartment film. This is, I was saying, anyone who shows this story to, respect to, they say it's our story, it's my story, or I know, I recognize it. So you sort of created an idiom which is speaking to a certain, obviously a certain kind of middle class, which is called mobile, right? So part of the story can happen in Hyderabad, part of it in Bombay, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, you called it universal, but I'm just very struck by the fact that in some way you are. If you show it in Hyderabad, possibly the reaction will be, I feel the same way. What my parents or I feel the same way what my mother. But in doing this, you have also sort of dissociated yourself from both the popular and not just the Allu Arjun level popular, but the independent films which are now being made and they're occasionally being released, but also ending up in OTT and so on, which are very contextual. Their accent. Here too the Telugu is accented, but they're heavily accented, regionally coded. They refer to specific events, and so on and so forth. And even the films that are set in apartment complexes. You want to watch a film called Mattu, it's about, it's a very funny kind of film. It's all largely set in an apartment complex. And all kinds of crazy stuff is happening in an apartment complex. So the apartment complex becomes a place of history, of murder, of all sorts of stuff. Right? But this is not one of those. Right? This is a very different kind of apartment complex, and it is completely decontextualized. Right? So is it, one reason why it's so is because you translated the script. You wrote it in English, you meant it for Tamil, and it ended up being Telugu. And as you're saying, a lot of it was brought in by the actors. Right? So that's where the linguistic context comes in, the jokes come in, the games come in, and all of that. So did you conceive it like this, or it's just how it happened?
So I never see it as a language film, like it's a Telugu film, Hindi film, or Tamil film. It's just a film to me. And based on the situation I was in life, where I was at life, like I explained before that it needed to be Telugu because I needed to do it with this auntie and uncle of mine. So it's a Telugu film. I never could categorize it as that, as much as the industry or whatever would the market and stuff. But I never thought of all of that stuff, and I made it I didn't care about what it would be as a commodity and how I would sell it, its phone camera, all of that. And I think that was the most liberating thing, to not think about that. Which now it's I'm kind of forced to think like that for the next film that I'm doing. I'm trying to not delete those thoughts. But language-wise, the reason it's so coded is just because my responsibility I felt was it needed to be true to what it is. So if I'm doing a Telugu film, then it needs to be as Telugu as it can be, and my responsibility will be to put it in the right hands, because I know that I'm not going to bring that flavor to it. So that's where I make the actors also writers.
So you mentioned bicycle people, right? Is it just a film or a retelling film?
It's a film. For me, because I have consumed all of them as just through the subtitles. As much as I like certain languages, how they sound, like Chinese and all that, but they're all just like film, whether it's Ozu or this and that. Only Tamil movies are Tamil movies.
Yeah.
Whatever,
The Malayalis would this say it's simple, right?
I guess, yeah. For me, even in Malayalam film also for me is just a film only. Yeah.
A good follow-up to that thing is that this presence of, even though it's an apartment film, almost every, not shot of course, but almost every frame, large parts of the film has Bombay as the backdrop, right? Even the reflections when you are, there is this tension between outside world and the home. Most notably in that strobing scene where you see the outside world and the reflection. And you see the cars going out and you think, okay, maybe each of those cars has the same drama playing out.
Yeah, that's actually very nice that you said that, because my whole point of the multiple apartment thing is that it just needs to feel like what's going on behind that door. And it can be any door. And at any given point, it's like basically throwing a camera into a random house on a random day. And, on any day, this is what's happening, like that kind of a thing. So,
for me, the most surreal moment was that you put your hail in auto and you can get a ride. That was, for me, it's like, oh, it's Bombay, this has to be done.
Yeah.
Otherwise, no
Yeah.
other city would have.
Even
Yeah.
Chennai, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You'll have to have an argument.
So, thank you for making this because I've been to places like this in the past, fight to be very, very tense. The thing is, I was personally able to go with the daughter character. You know, you showed the mother and the father. First question is, do you have a perspective like this is the protagonist, this is, I want people to feel this, or was this film entirely applicable in this specific characters and their audience feelings?
I wrote it as her being the protagonist, and this not even a protagonist, but a point of view. That this is just a point of view of being stuck between somebody else's problems. And again, in that responsibility side, I felt like if I'm showing her being stuck with something, then that needs to be fully fleshed out. But in the process of fleshing that out, it just became very strong that it became the film, and that love story thing became like unnecessary.
Yeah, and you shot this film in the iPhone, right?
Yeah,
In 60 frames.
on 30 frames.
Okay. But the thing is, not that it was very handled and like thrown hard up and perfect. Did you choose this style to, because it was very immersive and very like tense and awkward, so did you choose this style to like emphasize this emotion or wasn't that not very conscious?
No, the style was, like I said, about my fascination with real time and just trying to simulate that experience of reality, that illusion of reality with that. So it's just more about me already being fascinated with the phone and real time and these kind of emotions, and it just automatically forms itself basically because of multiple fascinations.
Did you do multiple takes for shooting or was it just?
So, not that many actually, which is something that I actually can't believe because we were on such a tight timeline for very silly things in retrospect. Like she had office and auntie's plants were getting dry and stuff like that. But it was very serious to me. They said 5 days, I'll give you finish it. The thing that took the most retakes was the first shot, opening scene, because that was in some random person's house. And we didn't know him, and I just needed an apartment that resembled my first film apartment, which again is so meaningless now. But at that time, it was so important that it had to be a door that was on the right side, which replicated the opening of my first chapter, and all of that. So I last minute the apartment that I needed, that person was not there, whatever, he was not there, and I literally rang the bell of a random person, hoping their house was good. And I literally, it was so the day before, and one very old person was like, okay, he just said, okay, fine, shoot it, do it half an hour, I'll give you. I don't know who he is, so I'm fine with that, but I'm now bringing the person in the opening is my mom, the auntie in the beginning, who was very good friends with the auntie. So they were very uncomfortable in some random person's house, so it took them time to just let loose, and so that took I think 11 takes or something. Other than that, the longest, that 60-minute shot, which now has cut, which is uncle coming till he cries and the door closes, that was 1 60-minute shot. That somehow we did it in one take, which is it just happened, and that was 6, yeah. And that was because of the idli thing. The priority was the idli and not the dialogue.
Even the other side was broken.
Yeah.
What suspense around it?
So that was, yeah. So that I never thought a 60-minute long take, because now that sounds like a whole thing of a film, but ultimately I removed it because I felt like at first I was so fascinated that but then I felt like its form is taking over from it's becoming too testing for who I actually want to show it to. I didn't think it would be so accessible also. I thought it would be for some film festival and all that, but I realized it's for anybody. And then I made a much shorter version actually, which was with a lot of cuts and fades and all that. Then I realized this, I butchered the film. And I brought it back actually after Srikanth and I had first met. And he had only watched the early version. I had then changed it to this new version. And since somebody actually remembered that version, I realized the strength of it. And so actually he has a role to play in the final cut coming to be.
I saved the idlis.
Yeah.
Quickly, could you talk to us about the sound, especially in that first shot? Because your mom was talking at the far end of the shot, where you always what was your approach to sound? Because it's also phone sound, right?
No. So that is the very sad thing.
Okay.
I thought sound needed to be something so great, and I spent so much money on that. Yeah. So that was like just it was very. I had a sound recorders with all that industry stuff, and I didn't use booms because that was just not possible with the way of our shooting. So it was just labels.
Okay.
And in the mixing is when I made it like, you know, also obviously in this particular speaker you can't really hear,
Yeah.
but it is a very immersive 5.1 sound that I spent a lot of money in. So watch it, you know, screen it somewhere. But you know, with clock ticking and who's talking in the back and all of that stuff. That being said, I also completely didn't let them do the formal sound design because it needed to be realistic.
Yeah.
So I did add reverb and echo and ultimately made it back to what it would have been like with the phone sound. So that's a lesson I learned with to not kind of be very pretentious about industry standard stuff. So yeah, that's how I did sound.
So this is entirely phone sound.
No, it was it's just sing sound. Yeah, it is the live sound, not dubbing.
Thanks.
Yeah, little bit
Sound
of
design was it also recorded on the phone? Or
no. It was mics and ambient tracks and you know, recreating by sound in the distance and all of that. Yeah. Although it didn't need that, which is something I learned later. But yeah.
So what is the maximum number of mics you had at any point of time?
Just the number of labels that are there in each person. So 3.
So they were always wearing label mics, all of them.
Yeah. All of them were just labeled throughout.
Coming back to the shooting of it, I mean, was there like any technical reason that you said no to a shot and had to retake it? Because, for example, the auto scene, like they get into an auto, and we can see you get into an auto,
Yeah.
and we can see you adjust everything, like.
Yeah.
But you choose to keep it there, like. Was
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, that shot also, as part of my initial design, the shot starts over there, and that same shot of them in the auto till they reach home, go up, make coffee, take the Polaroid, put it on the thing, is actually in one take, which was again now unnecessary. But at the time, it was the, you know, experience of the time and the space where you get to go from one space to the other. So because in that larger picture, those mistakes were fine because the rest of the shot came. Later, I ended up cutting, but it's actually the same shot from the auto thing. So that's one part of it, the fact that it was designed to be one shot. Second part of it was that there was not a lot of so in that apartment that we shot it in, which is where the opening scene of the first chapter also happens. I needed it to be identical for whatever reason, and at the time when I shot the first chapter, I had a friend living there, so I shot that scene there. At the time we shot this, I didn't have any friends living there, but I needed to be there. And I was very anxious that if I go ask and they say no, then that idea will get cancelled, because how do we get permit? I didn't know that you can just go and just say it. It's such a simple shot. So we went like a tourist over there and acting like we are going to some house. So we went to the B-wing, came up A-wing, and then in the lift we got ready and shot it. And I had the whole mic gear. There's no sound recorders with me in those. So I had the settings done with the sound recorder, and I had the bag in a backpack. And I was recording like this, and I was just very anxious that the security will say something, so I wasn't looking and recording. That's why that shot also shakes, which are very simple things that can be fixed now, but at that time that was the biggest obstacle, to just get that shot. In the auto, why it is so shaky is because in the rehearsal, I shot it sitting in the front, was fine, but I didn't have that mic thing in the rehearsal, which is very heavy, the recorder. When I sat there, I was like holding that bar for my life and just hoping the shot comes, and so that just, you know, became the take, and I just stuck with it. So, and that was not my priority. It just need that, you know, I at that time, just if the acting and the emotion comes, it's fine. Technical thing should be separate. That was an approach I took at that time. So,
how many days of shoot did you take?
it was 2.5 days of shoot.
2.5
2 days continuously. 2 or 3, I guess, I don't know. But and then the last shot of the trees coming, which is actually pink, you can't see it here, but that was I shot in a separate road or in a separate season, and I kept shooting it again whenever the season was, when those trees were blooming. So that I shot once in December, once in April, once in March. And the person whose head it is actually not hers. Depending on whoever, like a female person I could take with me to the other end of Bombay, I would. So that in this particular fair take, it's actually my mom crouching like this with her knees like this, and then she cursed me forever for making her sit like that. But yeah, so that was alone a separate day, which was over different months. So, but yeah.
So the bedroom you have that thing switches on and off lights. So is that a conscious choice or on the game and one we choose to have this kind of a thing?
No, that was everything is a choice only because that's actually where I live. So we stripped out the entire apartment and dismantled everything to make it look like that. And that light was just I actually forgot. There was some reason. Oh yeah, in my initial script, that light was a gift from or something like that. I had some significance of it. Then I changed it to be a father's gift, the moon, and for him to know what she likes, and she likes lights, and she wants to feel home in a new space. So you decorate a space as per how you are familiar within your own space. So some stuff like that it came, and the light flickering itself is just. I wanted that whole sleepy thing to just feel like a very sleepy, like just sleep off, as an audience also. But I do feel now that in the later scene I should have not flickered it, but at least one scene I should have just kept it static. But I just wanted things to be dark, like real life darkness, and not the that blue film light darkness. And you can't shoot such a long scene in dark. Also, you need some kind of a reason. Like if somebody's gonna sleep because the film is shooting, you can't leave the light on. But if you turn it off, you can't see anything. So it's one of those things that worked in the favor of realism, practical lighting, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Just a quick question. Was the title originally in English or did you?
Yeah, the title was originally English as well as actually both together because I initially only had Window Flowers, which was supposed to be for both. And a part of where Window Flowers is from one particular poem in which another line of it is Winter Breeze. It's a love poem of me, the window flower, you, the winter breeze, something. And Winter Breeze, I didn't feel appropriate, and that kind of changed to Monsoon. And the whole thing about Mumbai is also like, rain coming and whatever my own reasons for that. So in Telugu, Rutupavanalu is more, which just means monsoons and not breeze, which is more encapsulative of that feeling. It's not a very literal thing, it's just atmosphere.
All emotions.
By way of closing, what next for both of you?
So my third film is done almost, which is called Petals in the Wind, which is also a lineage of these two titles. In Hindi, that's called Pankudiyan. So on Tamil, Telugu, Hindi, and that is next to be whatever film festivals and stuff. That's about it. Other than that, I'm writing another film which I've been writing for a long time. And are you acting in any Telugu movies?
I have not planned anything, but yeah, the process was enjoyable.
Yeah, but I hope we see you in more films actually.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Some filmmakers here cast.
And we have the actors and the producer of his next film.
They are the actors of the Hindi film Dhruv and Jyotsna, who are also directors and producers. So yeah.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.